Welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes as we have Columbia bracketed. I am north of town. Wade is south of town, and we will be with you here for the next couple of hours talking sports of local, regional, and national interest. So be sure and stay with us here from 2 to 4 as we do that. Wade, good hump day afternoon.
Happy hump day to you, my friend. Good to be back. It is a bit wild. It's certainly been a little bit wacky, but I'm ready to lock in from 2 to 4 with everybody today. Should be fun.
I think it's going to be a little wild and wacky, and not just in the last segment where we bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. We've got some stuff that is certainly interesting here over the next couple of hours from the sports world. Some of it coming off the top, and others as we make our way through the show. So, like you said, looking forward to it. As we continue to recover from spring fling. So, yeah. And that'll be reflected here at times over the course of the show, because a lot took place while we were off covering spring fling, and we are, still playing catch up a little bit. So, but it's still news. It's still stuff that we probably need to talk about. And so we will be doing that in a couple of instances, as well as taking a look at some things that have taken place in the last 24 hours and some stuff coming up. So again, looking forward to that with you all and with my ride or die, Mr. Neely here. So I guess, Wade, the best thing to do, and now that high school sports is over with, the rundown is not very long, but we need to address it with yesterday's results and today's schedule. So let us give you the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. The Wednesday rundown. We kick things off with Major League Baseball scores from last night. Atlanta picked up a 2-0 win versus the Nationals. The Mariners put up just 2 runs for Houston, as those two teams, more on them a little bit later in our show. Sounds action from last night. It was Memphis 2, Nashville 0. WNBA scores last night. A couple of them were close, but not this one, as Connecticut was walloped Phoenix last night, 70-47. I mentioned a close game. The Sparks got a big win in Indiana, knocking off the Fever 88-82. And Seattle, who's had an up and down start to the year, they get a 77-68 win versus Chicago.
Today's schedule in the major leagues, the Nationals and the Braves will continue their series at Truist Park tonight. That's a 6:20 first pitch. You can see it on ESPN Plus. You can also see it on Bally Sports South. And at 8:40 out on the West Coast, Houston continues its series at Seattle. You can see that one on the MLB Network. Nashville goes back at Memphis today at AutoZone Park. It's a 7:05 start. In the WNBA, Phoenix, coming off of that tough loss, and we'll talk more about that one later in the show, travels to the New York Liberty. That's a 6 o'clock tip. You can see it on CBS Sports Network. Also at 6, the Atlanta Dream is at the Washington Mystics. Yeah. And the Vegas Aces are at the Minnesota Lynx. That's a 7 o'clock tip on NBA TV. On the pitch, the Nashville Soccer Club travels to FC Cincinnati. That's a 6:30 our time start on Apple TV, and that is your rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch and dinner options, as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top stories, plural, because after we had the run of show completed, something else came up that was certainly worthy of mention in this segment. But first, Major League Baseball, as of today, has incorporated Negro Leagues statistics for individuals that played in the Negro Leagues between 1920 and 1948. And so we've got some new career leaders and some career top 10 participants in that type of thing as that has been undertaken. It's kind of the capping of a 3-year project by a number of baseball statistics gurus, I guess. And it's been a major undertaking, obviously, because a lot of those stats were not as well documented as other baseball statistics at that time, but it is pretty well generally accepted that the Negro Leagues were as competitive and um, played at as high a level as the National and the American leagues of that time. And so there are those that would tell you that a wrong has been righted with this. And this is going to kind of be an ongoing thing, apparently, because they are continuing to do research and continuing to come up with more um, statistics, more concrete numbers. And so this is a nice step in the right direction. I think Negro League baseball players have been made eligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame, and now their stats are being recognized by Major League Baseball as well. And so this is, like I said, I just think it's a step in the right direction. With this, Ty Cobb's 367 all-time batting average being the record has been surpassed by Josh Gibson's 372. There are some other career numbers that have been altered or added to as a result of this, but again, I think this is great. It's more reflective of the baseball that has been played at the highest level, I think.
I think so too. And you just mentioned it, Josh Gibson. There's the new GOAT has arrived. Josh Gibson. It's not just a funny debate anymore. He can rightfully make that claim after these. And that was kind of the cool thing for me, is just going through some of the stat lines that did get changed. And obviously Josh Gibson got a lot of the attention yesterday. But and you're right. This is a kind of a sweeping or a broader stroke of the entire game of baseball, right? And I didn't really think about it till you had kind of explained the situation a little earlier, Mo. And that's really in my mind, the only hiccup are the stats kept at pretty much the exact, up to the same standards. And I think by and large, it sounds like they are. So if they are, then yeah, this is a slam dunk, and a wrong kind of has been righted. That's the only question for me, is if there was any room for, wiggle room for error or embellishment. But if that's kind of removed, then I think this gives you the closest perfect picture of the game at large as it's been played for all these years.
Exactly. There is a list of all-time career batting averages. As we mentioned, Josh Gibson now sits atop that list with a career batting average of 372, followed by Ty Cobb with 367. Oscar Charleston, another Negro League legend, hit 363 for his career, followed by Rogers Hornsby at 359. Judd Wilson from the Negro Leagues at 350. And Nashville's Norman Turkey Stearns, the only Nashvillian in the Baseball Hall of Fame, hit 348 for his career, and he is now listed 6th all time. So congratulations to him and his family. I've had the good fortune of meeting his daughters, and they have done a lot to continue to try to get recognition for their dad, and I'm sure this is certainly a happy time for them. So this is big. Josh Gibson hit 466 in 1943, had a slugging percentage of 974 in 1937 and 871 in 1943. Had a season OPS. He has now the top two single season OPSs. 1.474 in 37, 1.435 in 43. Barry Bonds now is third in that. And I think these next few days you might not want to bother them because they're going to be really combing through this stuff and seeing what the changes are and that kind of thing. One question that a lot of people had, a number of folks were looking for 8 Negro League home runs for Hank Aaron for obvious reasons and did not quite come up with those. I think he was I don't know that he had any because, again, the numbers were only recognized from the Negro Leagues from 1920 to 1948. He played in 1952 with the Indianapolis Clowns. So I don't think he got any kind of bump from these additional numbers, but there will obviously be some players whose numbers will increase as a result of the time that they spent in the Negro Leagues prior to coming into Major League Baseball in either the National or American League. So again, if you're into numbers and you're into baseball, then there's a lot to digest right here, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun with that over the next few days.
Hey, I was just getting ready to say too. Imagine, Mo, you and I were in a lot of press boxes the last week or so. How'd you like to be the guy? I'm sure this was a multi-pronged effort, but how'd you like to be the guy? You get one final keystroke, and you're like, that's it. I've completed it. It's finalized, and now you get to hit the email or the upload to submit, and knowing that because this is obviously it's a labor of love. Yeah, it was a professional undertaking, but there's got to be some real passion behind a project like this to get it to its completion. So I'm just thinking, man, it would have been from a recovering SID standpoint, it would have been kind of nice when you get that record book finalized after every season. It's always a great feeling. I can only imagine how this team must have felt to get this thing done.
Absolutely. John Thorne, the official historian of Major League Baseball, chaired a 17-person committee that included Negro Leagues experts and statisticians in this endeavor. And as you said, it's got to be a labor of love to be involved with something like this. I mean, can you imagine all of the microfilm and old newspapers and that kind of thing that you had to comb through to come up with box scores and different things like that to put this information together? There is a Seamheads Negro Leagues database that has been put together by Kevin Johnson and Gary Ashwell that was heavily relied upon on this effort. But there's a lot of information out there, but finding it is, the devil is in the detail, as they say. So
yeah, imagine that. Honey, will you come to bed? Hang on. I've got one more box score from 1932. And I've been working on it for the last 6 hours, but I promise as soon as it's done, I'm coming to bed.
Yeah. And the next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning and you're still up. Yeah. Been there, done that.
And one other thing I thought was pretty neat too, Mo, is this kind of is also dovetailing. MLB The Show has gotten involved. They've had, I believe, 2 editions now that have featured full remakes of the roster of the Negro Leagues. So I think 23, the last year's game was the first one that's kind of gotten it done. And now this year's game has got it included as well. So this is not just, a internet kind of nerd situation in this regard, I guess it is, but you're also able to go out and play the game and kind of really sink back into a time portal in many respects, which is kind of cool to see MLB continuing to incorporate.
Absolutely. Great day for baseball. Great day for Scotty Scheffler. Charges against world's top golfer Scotty Scheffler dropped after arrest outside PGA Championship is the headline on the Associated Press's article that moved within the last hour or so. And really as information continued to come out following Scheffler's arrest prior to the second round of the PGA Championships, it wasn't a question of if, but when we were going to get to this point.
Yeah. Talking a couple weeks ago after the Masters and, well, really even in the build-up to the Masters, we just talked about this guy's so squeaky clean. Everybody's got skeletons in their closet except seemingly Scotty Scheffler. This guy is just such a nice guy, super squeaky clean. We talked about his, he's a new father now. I mean, that's why this story just really caught a lot of people off guard. And so in many respects, I think a lot of folks would have had a natural inclination of, I'm going to believe Scotty Scheffler, regardless of what his squeaky clean image would be, given the other party in this situation. But when you factor in the fact that he's the one that's kind of, quote unquote, accused or at fault here, I think a lot of folks are not shocked that he's been completely kind of exonerated in many respects here.
Jefferson County Attorney Mike O'Connell asked a judge Wednesday afternoon to drop the 4 charges against Scheffler, who was not required to be in the courtroom. The prosecutor said his team reviewed the case in a thorough and expeditious manner. Based upon the totality of the evidence, my office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler. Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was a big misunderstanding is corroborated by the evidence. Now, there are a lot of other directions that we could take this conversation in. I'll try not to. But Scheffler was charged with a felony for assaulting a police officer with his vehicle, along with 3 misdemeanors. And apparently, none of this held up.
Didn't seem like, from the jump, right? It didn't seem like a lot of this kind of really just passed the sniff test. And then obviously, I still haven't actually officially watched the whole video, but then apparently, it hasn't even passed a lot of the eye test. So kind of not surprising that this has been kind of a quick and easy sweep under the rug in many regards. This is kind of an open and shut case, I guess some would say, maybe, so
to speak. Yeah. And it's good for Scheffler to have this out of the way, I would think. It certainly didn't seem to bother him in round 2. Maybe there was some fatigue from the day and the event in his 3rd round on Saturday, but he finished up Sunday with a 65, I think, to finish 8th in the tournament. But apparently there has been a agreement reached between LMPD and Scheffler and his representation that no one will be pursuing, legal action, which, is kind of an odd statement to me, because the police department has already said that the charges have been dropped, or the county attorney has said that the charges have been dropped. I don't know what Scheffler had to agree to, but his attorney says that he is not interested in pursuing litigation. Scotty Scheffler doesn't want the taxpayers of Louisville to have to pay him a dime, he said.
And the crazy thing too was when this situation went down, if I'm not misunderstanding, I'm not shocked that obviously Scotty comes out and says he holds no ill will. As we've said, this kind of seems like the guy that he is. Mm-hmm. But apparently when he got to booking, they kind of said, we didn't really realize who you were. We apologize. And he said, no. Hey, I don't want any special treatment. Hence we get the famous mug shot. But it sounded like they almost even kind of offered a little bit of a mea culpa there. And we're like, hey, let's just get this kind of swept under the rug. And Scotty said, no, man, throw me in booking. I want to stretch out a little bit. And then obviously, as we talked about, he goes out and birdies the first hole and finishes 6 under.
I think so on that day. Yeah.
On that day. So it's kind of a crazy situation, just an odd situation all around for Scotty.
Absolutely. But again, it's been resolved. Go forth and sin no more, LMPD. Yeah, right. Let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by CHRISTINA NICOLA, who covers the Miami Marlins for MLB.com. And we've got a couple of things that we want to discuss with her. One pretty obvious, one maybe not so much. So we will get into that when we return after this break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another real estate auction Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. in the beautiful Hickory Woods subdivision. This spacious estate offers numerous amenities, perfect for the homeowner or investor. Conveniently located in Davidson County, Tennessee at 221 Wild Grove Court. This is the sale you don't want to miss. Join Bluegrass and bid with confidence Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back to Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And we are now joined from Petco Park by CHRISTINA NICOLA, who covers the Miami Marlins for MLB.com. Got a day game coming up out there.
We do. It starts in about 40 or so minutes. Also, hello. But it's a beautiful, shocking day in San Diego.
It's a beautiful day in San Diego, huh? That never happens, right?
Never, right?
Yeah. Hey, You work in Miami and you're in San Diego. Who's got it better than Christina Nicola, as a certain professional football coach would say? Yeah. Um, Christina, we brought you here to talk about one thing, but before we get into that, I have a question. Speaking of Marlins and San Diego, could you please explain to me the Luis Arias trade?
Well, you know, it's a long story. No, uh, unfortunately, it seems with the change of front office over the off season, as well as the slow start to the season, that the Marlins might be shifting into somewhat of a rebuild mode, and that was, I guess, the first move. Uh, it came a lot sooner than I think anyone would have imagined. You don't really often see trades in May, especially early May.
Especially
think
batting leaders.
batting leaders. I think that it was going to end up being this way, with the Marlins taking him to arbitration rather than trying to sign into an extension. Arias had told us several times he wanted to stay in Miami, but clearly, I guess that wasn't in the plans. And so the Marlins traded him for, off the top of my head, I believe 3 prospects and a minor league pitcher who came over from Asia and hasn't appeared in the majors yet. And that's part of, I think, probably one of what might be many moves moving forward. And that was just the first, I guess, domino.
This is a team that made the postseason a year ago, features the NL manager, the reigning NL manager of the year, and Skip Schumacher. They were positioned, were they not, to be? I mean, I tweeted, are the Marlins trying to not be good? I mean, obviously they got off to a slow start, but things turn around, don't they?
They do. I think the last 3 weeks or so, you've seen that because the pitching's gotten healthy, but the problem is there's such a big hole that it was going to be tough. But that's one of the first things I asked after the trade to Peter Bendix, the new president of baseball operations, is how much did you take into account the impact that has on the players and the coaching staff, right? If you're trading away your best player this early in the season. And he said that they took it into consideration, but, you know, it's not reassuring when the head of the front office says, like, it's unlikely we're going to make the playoffs. Sure. Is it unlikely? The odds are stacked against them. Like, they started, I believe, the season at 0-9. No team in the history of Major League Baseball has ever made the playoffs after opening 0-7. So, yes, like, they would be defying the odds. But it is interesting that that was said. But yeah, like you mentioned, they came off a postseason appearance. You wonder how much of it too, though, is they're going to be without Sandy Alcantara, right? One of the best pitchers in baseball this season, so Tommy John, and now Yuri Perez as well had Tommy John surgery. But then you also wonder, like, next season those guys will be healthy, and one of the reasons you brought me on, Ryan Weathers has had a breakout season so far. You have Jesus Luzardo, who will be a trade candidate. He's under club control. You've got Braxton Garrett, who threw a Maddox on Friday in Arizona. Like, these are names, like, if you held out, you know, this year, okay, let's say it's a wash year, but next year with that kind of pitching staff, you could be back to what 2023 was like. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward whether, you know, if they trade some pieces, it's to get guys that are position players that are close to the big leagues that can have an impact, because that is the issue. Is the farm system is one of the worst in baseball, and there hasn't been any, like, productive position players to come through. The pitching side has, and they've done well developing it, but the position player side hasn't. And they have, entering today, I think, the lowest runs per game in the National League, not helped, of course, by Luis being traded. Yeah, that's sort of the state of the Marlins right now.
Goodness gracious. You mentioned him, and you have a great article up on the website. Headline: Weathers dazzles with 5th straight quality start. You know, for those who aren't necessarily immersed in Major League Baseball, a quality start is 6 innings or more and 3 earned runs or less, which is a 4.50 ERA. And personally, I'm not enamored with the stat, but Ryan hasn't even come close to that ERA in those starts, and capped it with 6 scoreless, 7 strikeouts on Sunday, and a 3-1 victory against Arizona. It's not as simple as a switch flipping on, I don't think. But what is this about? And it's unfortunate for me that he doesn't get to throw against San Diego, but, uh, what what do the Marlins attribute this, I don't wanna say sudden, but this success to for him?
Right. Well, so in spring training, he had mentioned to us early on just the kind of off-season program he was doing, working with whether it was TrackMan and stuff, but to see, whether mechanical tweaks that he could work on to maximize whether it's velocity, location. He actually didn't start the season great. I think his first, 5 or 6 starts were kind of the things we had seen before, a lot of walks, self-inflicted wounds in that respect. But it's ever since the calendar turned to May, he's been like another pitcher, not even another pitcher, but probably living up to the potential that everyone kind of thought he had, right? The Padres probably did him no favors making him make his major league debut in the playoffs, right? 2020, kind of speeding up that way too much. But now, yeah, like it's been a thing throughout the whole starting staff where they realize we have strikeout stuff, but if we want to go deep in games, help out our bullpen, give our team the best chance to win, get those early outs, early contact, and our stuff is good enough that we can get away with it. And you're seeing that he's the one, honestly, that's been the most consistent with that in the last month. It's kind of when all these injuries were happening to Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, Edward Cabrera right now. Obviously, you mentioned Sandy and Yuri are out. He's been the most reliable guy when they could trust.
And with the trade, and with him pitching the way he is right now, he takes a 3-4 record and a 3.16 ERA into his next start. We're starting the Ryan Weathers for All-Star
game. I know. I've
campaign.
joked about that earlier in this road trip. But if he keeps at this pace, he'll most definitely be Marlins representative. Teams that are not doing as well, you'll probably only get one, maybe two. He would be probably at the top of my list. Him, and then maybe closer Tanner Scott. Yeah, I mean, Ryan, I'm looking at his numbers now from that story I wrote. Since things have turned around, second most innings he's thrown in baseball at the time, 13th lowest ERA, third lowest whip, which shows you that he's not giving up hits or walks like before. 27 strikeouts to just 5 walks. That's been huge for him. He's been a pleasant surprise. And I think when the Marlins traded for him at the deadline last year, they hoped he'd be a reclamation project like Luzardo was a couple of years before that, where they could kind of bring him into the system. As I mentioned, they've been able to develop pitchers, not the hitters necessarily. And here's another perfect case of that.
Christina, I'm curious. Mel Stottlemyre Jr. has kind of been getting a lot of shout outs. Is he a Ryan Weathers whisperer, or what's going on with the pitching coach, and why has he been so effective in kind of getting maybe some messaging across to a guy who obviously has got a lot of talent?
Well, Mel's greatest. He's awesome. It's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. Like the Marlins were always kind of like, he teaches change-ups, and obviously that's another pitch that helps out guys. But it seems like this staff at the moment is a lot of slider, four-seam heavy. But Mel just has a way, especially lately. He was telling me like the do's and don'ts for pitchers. So if they do certain things, there's a potential that they can get positive reinforcement, we'll say. If they do certain things that they shouldn't, like give up leadoff walks that end up coming around to score, allowing guys to steal bases, then they might have to put money in a jar type of thing, we'll say. And I think that's actually motivated the guys that, not necessarily a checklist, but, be cognizant of the things that were hurting them that first month of the season where they couldn't live up to the kind of talent they have. And that's kind of flipped the switch in May. And I mean, Weathers is a perfect example of that. He's not walking guys as much. He's not giving up steals. And so he's probably getting a nice, incentives right now.
For sure. And, we're still at the end of the day talking about a guy that was drafted 7th overall. And, over the last couple of seasons, maybe you think, okay, we're just going to settle in and this is kind of the career trajectory that he's on. But have you seen, this has been a great story to start the season, but are we maybe seeing a chance for him to really just kind of take off and reach an even kind of higher plateau than maybe we had mentally settled on in the last year or two?
I think definitely when and he's 24 and a young 24, right? He turned
Uh-huh.
24 in December. So, I mean, he's so young. And I said, they sped up the process, the Padres, by the way they called him up. So he was probably learning on the fly, probably shuttling back and forth between the minors and majors. That sort of inconsistency is tough on a guy, right? You're acting like a shuttle. And that even happened with the Marlins last year when they traded for him. You mentioned about it. It would have been nice to see him pitch in San Diego. When he did face San Diego last year, he didn't go too well. I believe that happened. He said he was too amped up, right? So that's one of the things calming his emotions. But I think the way he's been pitching this year, that wouldn't have been the case if he got to pitch here in San Diego. But I think he's just starting. I'm looking right now at his StatCast, percentile rankings. His velocity, mind you, from the left side is 80th percentile. It's 95.7 miles per hour average. His ground ball rate is 51.4%, which is 85th percentile. His fastball run value is in the 88th percentile. He's probably just scratching the surface, right? There's a reason a guy selected 7th overall. He had it in him. It's just a matter of, it takes time. It doesn't come quickly to everybody. It's not a linear trajectory either. For all we know, he could have pitch a Saturday and he could have an off game, but it's not, you're always learning something, whether it's a good or bad start, and you're seeing him going up that trajectory.
Absolutely. Christina NICOLA joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Christina, you talk about him being too amped up when he faced San Diego last year. Terribly competitive guy. I mean, I'm sure that the clubhouse is full of terribly competitive guys, but not everybody is playing against their former team every time out. So I can see where too amped up might be the case. Number 7 pick by the Padres in 2018 out of Loretto High School, Gatorade National Player of the Year. Wanting to prove something there, I would think, but he's certainly taken steps toward proving a lot more here over the last little bit. What do you feel like the next step is for him?
I think, and I had asked him that, at what point is it expected, these results that we're getting? It's one thing for him to be like, yeah, that's what I expect out of myself, but where he almost becomes like an ace, right? Where the team, everybody knows that they're going to get at least the quality starters, like the 6 innings, 3 runs or less. But it's been 5 straight now, but at what point is it just the expectation rather than waiting for maybe it to take a step back? And I think he's getting there. He's never done this before in his career. It's a career high 5 quality starts. It's the most by a Marlins pitcher since I think last August. Jesus Luzardo did it. And that goes back to Luzardo took that step last year. Braxton Garrett took that step last year. And now it seems like it's Weathers' turn. And as we both mentioned, if it keeps at this pace, maybe an all-star appearance, which would be well-deserved, especially the way he's pitching.
Absolutely. Christina, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and enjoy San Diego. And we may be checking back with you around the All-Star game, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day, shocker, as we've established. Great day for baseball.
Absolutely. Enjoy
Well
it. We
said.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
When we come back to the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports today, we'll continue talking a little Major League Baseball as we consider the Braves. So stay tuned when we come back after this break.
Wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway.
That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Superspeedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
May 29th, 1962, the wind must have been blowing out at Wrigley Field. In a game that featured 9 home runs, with Ernie Banks hitting 3 of the Cubs' 6, the Milwaukee Braves outlasted host Chicago 11-9. The Cubs had 15 hits but couldn't overcome Milwaukee's 6-run third inning that included a 3-run Amato Samuel homer, following second inning bombs by Joe Adcock and Joe Torre. That was this day in Braves history. Braves could use some of that offense yet again, but they got enough last night in a 2-0 victory over the Nats. Max Fried obviously doing Max Fried things, 8 scoreless, through 103 pitches, 62 for strikes in that one, and Ozuna with a solo home run that gave the Braves all the offense that they would need, but they scored another one late. Again, they were 4-8 in their last 12 going into last night, so you can't be too choosy about how you get it done. They got it done against the Nats. They'll try to do it again tonight with a youngster on the mound, Spencer Schwellenbach. I guess I got that right. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it, Wade? Schwellenbach
seems decent enough.
Yeah, making his debut. He is the 23rd or 24th Atlanta Braves player to come straight up from AA Mississippi. And to bring that into more focus, 3 weeks ago he was at single A Rome.
Wow.
So, yeah, but in 8 minor league starts, he's 4-1 with a 1.80 ERA, 51 strikeouts in 45 innings. Did not give up a run in 13 innings with the M Braves. So, I don't know if the Nationals have the same kind of problems with young pitchers that the Braves do. Maybe he's got a shot tonight. Speaking of former Padres pitchers, Mackenzie Gore gets the start for the Nationals, 3-4 with a 3.04 ERA. I believe he was involved in that Juan Soto trade along with former Independent standout Robert Hassel III. So those two will be going at it at 6:20 tonight at Truist Park as the Braves try to win their second straight and continue to right themselves from this recent stretch of putridness. Is that a word?
We'll let it. It fits what's been going on, whether it's a word or not.
Yeah,
but playing at home, and then obviously you potentially close this series out. You get the A's coming to town. That's been known to be a remedy for a number of ball clubs over the years.
Been known to be good for what ails you, right? Yeah.
Been known to be just what the doctor ordered. I mean, I'm just glancing at the standings. They're 17-9 at home and 14-12 on the road. So keep that train rolling. Get a win tonight at home. And then get ready to close things out tomorrow at 6:20. And then, yeah, you get the A's coming into town on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they got another little 2-game stint with Boston after we saw another 2-game stint earlier this year. Those two will be up in Beantown on the 4th and 5th. So schedule potentially conducive for Atlanta to maybe kind of right the ship, as it were.
Yeah, now full disclosure, as a friend of mine pointed out to me over the weekend, you might have thought that the Cubs and the Pirates were a little conducive for that, and that didn't work out so well. So hopefully things will stick a little bit closer to plan here over this next few, like you said. Houston, tough time last night.
Not good. Didn't get things going really at all versus Seattle. And Mariners kind of pulling away a little bit. They've already opened up a 3.5-game lead on the Rangers. Houston's not playing great, but the Rangers are playing terrible too. So Seattle was kind of a chic pick for a lot of folks to win that division, and they've done well. Been 2 close games. One on Monday 3-2, and then last night 4-2. But yeah, Houston is just broken record situation. They're not putting themselves in a chance. It wasn't as bad last night. They only gave up 1 run in the first, and they actually took a lead in the 4th. But they have not. They've been all over the place. They haven't started games well. They haven't closed games well. At times they gave up 3 runs in the 8th last night. And the fact of the matter is, though, I mean, you give up 4 runs on the road with Houston, as talented as their offense can be, you should probably have a better shot than that to win the game. They were only held to 5 hits last night.
Yeah. You feel a little bit better about tonight just for the fact that it's Justin Verlander getting the ball in this 8:40 start tonight.
Verlander going. Seattle does strike out quite a bit, so could be a chance for Verlander to get one, and then maybe kind of get things just when you thought you kind of had things. They get the Twins, who've been playing pretty well, and then they do have a fun series coming up in next week when they get the Cardinals coming back. That's an old blood series from back in the day, so that'll be a chance to maybe get some mojo going. Then the Angels. So their schedule is kind of conducive. You know, it's not like they're playing the Phillies schedule by any stretch right now, but the schedule is kind of getting a little easier for them in the next couple of games here. So it'd be nice to get one tonight to maybe kickstart that.
Not a lot of love lost between the Astros and the Cardinals, going back to some off-field front office type issues between those two a few years back, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the famous story. Obviously, of course, they were investigated for hacking into the Astros database back in the day. But, I always point out to everybody. Everybody always loves to point out the Brad Lidge, bomb that still has not landed from Pujols. But not a lot of people talk about the fact that Roy Oswalt goes into St. Louis and wins the series in the very next game from that during that 2005 NLCS. So just like to point that out for folks in St. Louis when they kind of forget that.
St. Louis fans forget a lot.
They tend to.
Yeah.
I will say this: I've only been to that I've been to that park one time. Well, one trip, and I got to go 3 games. This was crazy, Mo. I got to go 3 games, and Lance Berkman of the Astros at that time, not of the Cardinals, he hit a home run in all 3 games.
Oh, wow.
And it was a fun time. That was they were still in the NL, so it was in the mid 2000s. But yeah, fun rivalry. That'll be coming up. I'll be probably tapped in a little more than I would be for any other series when those 2 teams get it on next week.
That's a fun place to go watch a ball game. I will say that. So
cool town, cool environment. They really kind of rally behind the team, even though we poked fun at them on this show for maybe not doing as much this year. But it is fun and it's a nice environment. But Berkman hit a couple bombs during that series, which was nice.
Verlander 3-2 with a 3.60 ERA going for Houston. George Kirby 4-5 with a 4.33 getting the start for Seattle. We have talked more probably than would be expected on this show about Paul Skeens. And I think it's just a fascination for a guy who, again, 2-3 years ago was pitching for the Air Force Academy, and we hadn't heard about him. He bets on himself, gets into the transfer portal, goes to LSU, wins a national championship, and is probably one of the top 2 or 3 reasons they did so. Goes 1-1 in the draft to Pittsburgh, and they keep him in AAA way longer than they should have, because in his first 3 starts at the major league level, he's 1-0 with a 2.25 ERA. He has struck out 21 hitters. He has walked 4. That's in 16 innings. What took you so long?
Yeah, he's been shoving, and that game just got underway in game 2 of their doubleheader.
Game 2 has started already?
Yep, he's already
how many strikeouts?
2 strikeouts through the top of the first.
That's about right.
Through 1 full inning. So, yeah, Paul Skeens Day, and it kind of just dawned on me when you went through his trajectory. Maybe not quite to this level, but it's a kind of a upper echelon version of Dalton Connect in the sense that my man transferred, kind of bet on himself, and then obviously he goes 1-1, and I don't think Dalton's going to go first overall, and who knows what happens with his career, but it kind of seems there's some small parallels right there, and
I think you're right.
Skeens has got a lot of hype behind him, which is kind of cool because we see this, and we saw it a lot obviously with De La Cruz last year, and Pittsburgh. They're 25-30. It's not as if they are just completely downtrodden. But when your team
2 or 3 from the Braves this weekend, they're not downtrodden at all. But yeah.
but when you don't have a lot to sell, when you have a hot prospect that is coming up, that is a fun thing that'll at least get you to tune in. If it's a position player, obviously, hopefully more than 1 or 2 days at a time. But if it's a starter, you're at least going to tune in for that. So happy Paul Skeens Day to everybody that observes.
To all that observe, exactly. Yeah. Coming into this start, and I'm looking at an article on CBS Sports, Skeens' average 4-seam fastball this season was 99.3 miles an hour. Only 3 pitchers have thrown a harder 4-seamer on average, and they're all relievers. Mason Miller of the Athletics, Diamondbacks rookie Justin Martinez, and St. Louis closer Ryan Heisley. Mason Miller at 100.9, Martinez 100.1, Heisley at 99.4. And again, those are all relievers. No starter is within a mile of Skeen's average fastball velocity. So, you know what you're getting from him, but knowing is only half the battle, clearly. So, and you say he's already at 2 strikeouts in the first inning.
2 strikeouts in the first, and Mo, when was this that I did this? 2 weeks ago, I did put some cash down on Mr. Skeens for National League MVP. He was 14-1 then. He's currently your co-favorite. Imanaga of the Cubs, I do believe, is a small favorite, but Skeens is now down to 4-1. So Skeens, in the span of about 2.5 weeks, has already gone from 14-1 to 4-1.
Is that MVP or Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year in the NL.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me if I said MVP, but yeah, he's must-see TV at this point. And yeah, he's fanning a couple Tigers early in this one this afternoon.
Oh. Wow. Something to keep an eye on. And when we can talk about somebody other than the Braves and Astros, particularly with the way our teams are going right now, that's probably a good thing. So we will be continuing to keep an eye on Mr. Skeens as we go. That's going to do it for hour number 1 here of Wild and Wacky Wednesday, Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, Wade mentioned Dalton Connect, and it's kind of timely, actually, because we're going to get into the transfer portal as it relates to Knoxville. So stay tuned when we return on the other side of this break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Second hour of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective abodes. And, you know, we mentioned that there's been some stuff that we kind of missed while we were tending to other duties in Murfreesboro last week. Well, one of them, and Wade, you may have a little bit more familiarity with this than I do as a former, as you mentioned, small college athletic media relations director. Birmingham Southern, a few weeks ago, it was announced that they will be closing down at the end of the school year, which officially is Friday. But they are trying to take some national hardware with them as they go wherever they go, because Birmingham Southern will open play Friday in the NCAA Division III World Series. Now, again, I don't know where the trophy case would be that the trophy would go in if they were to win this thing, because the school is closing.
Crazy story, and funny timing that we're talking about it today. Just ran into one of my good friends who lives in Birmingham. He was in town visiting his parents today, and he's a BSC alum, and even he brought it up. He's big into sports, but, you know, that's probably something that would have slipped off his radar. And he said, how about the fact my school is closing in a couple days, and we might have a chance to win the dang World Series? Just kind of a wild situation. And Chris and I discussed it a little bit last week that, you know, they have been in the process. Birmingham Southern has been in the process for the last couple of weeks. There's kind of like a garage sale going on of all of their merch, football helmets, you know, jerseys, things of that nature. So, you know, if you're a BSC alum and you haven't gotten anything yet, you may all of a sudden be puffing your chest out a little bit, because you may, or if you didn't get anything, maybe you're going to hold off and get a national champions t-shirt.
You know who else may be puffing their chest out? There's a certain somebody over on West End who may be puffing his chest out. Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee played as a freshman at Birmingham Southern, won a 2001 NAIA national championship. So I don't know if he'll be wearing a BSC t-shirt or a polo or something like that. Absolutely. So, yeah.
The other crazy thing, and our buddy JoJo Freeman pointed this out Friday in Murfreesboro. How about the effort from Drake LaRoche, the pitcher of if you tuned into a Major League Baseball for a lot, you didn't know his name was Drake maybe, but you knew Adam LaRoche's son was around a whole lot back in the day.
A lot.
And he threw a 127 pitch complete game in their game one super regional win the other night. Now that is crazy, but if 127 pitches doesn't tell you about a school that's going out of business, I don't know what does. Hey, you know what? School's closing. Who cares about 100 pitch count? We're just going to go ahead and let you throw as long as you want, buddy. So 127 pitches he threw in the game one win over the weekend.
There's only one thing to do. Go win the whole thing.
East Lake, Ohio, if you want to make road trip plans for this weekend, Mo.
Now, where is this taking place?
Yeah, East Lake, Ohio, which
it's at East Lake, Ohio. Okay, so that's not who they're playing, but it's the D3 World Series is at East Lake, Ohio.
Yeah, had to do some Googling in the barbershop chair, because it's somewhere near Akron-ish, I believe. Okay. About a 9-hour drive. So it's a little bit of a haul, but I mean, hey, you got nothing to lose, and go check them out, man. They play. I believe game one's on Friday. Is that correct? I
I
think.
believe so. Yeah, the 31st against Denison. Is that right? Out of Ohio. I think that's
A lot of Ohio represent. They had to go up to Ohio. The funny thing too, they had to go to Ohio for the Super Regional, but you knew the World Series was there, so I'm assuming
you would
it ain't
think
like
that
you got
they
much
just,
of a campus to come back to. You might as well
what are you
just stay
coming
up
back
there,
to?
right?
Exactly. Might as well just stay. Yeah. And there's always a Nashville connection, Wade, right? So in addition to Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee, listed on the Panthers roster is sophomore catcher / outfielder Grant Morgan, a Spring Hill resident who played his high school baseball at Independence. And I guess we'll be looking for someplace to play his final 2 seasons of eligibility. I guess this is a tryout for all these guys as well. Wonder how many scouts will be at the D3 College World Series looking for some reinforcements from Birmingham Southern. I would love to see them take the field this weekend in just plain white or gray uniforms with nothing on them.
Team.
Yeah.
On the front.
Generic. Yep. Or the old what is it? The scanner thing that you run
the QR code.
Yeah, or even before that, when you check out at the grocery store, those scan things.
UPC code.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take the field in those. Wow.
Yeah, you make a great point though. Guarantee there will be some scouts and or obviously other D1, D2, D3 coaches that are just like, hey, you need to stay or you need to play somewhere next year. Come check us out.
Birmingham Southern is the 4th winningest baseball program in D3 since 2010. They've won 9 that had 9 30-win seasons, 9 conference championships, and they were national runner-up in D3 5 years ago.
Wow.
So bringing it home or taking it wherever they would take it is not out of the realm of possibility. So you got to root for those guys. That's a great story and great and unfortunate, I guess. Wade, you mentioned in the last segment Dalton Connect. Over the weekend, Tennessee got a commitment from 2023-24 All-Atlantic Sun performer Chaz Lanier, a guard from North Florida who is a Ensworth graduate. And apparently he was one of the more coveted guards in the portal this year. 6 foot 199. For his career at North Florida, he averaged just under 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 1.2 assists, and is considered to be among the nation's top shooters, shooting 48% from the floor for his career, 40% from 3, 37 double-digit performances at North Florida. And, I don't know that UT gets lightning in a bottle 2 times in a row out of the portal, but he is certainly a guy that they are pretty excited about getting, apparently.
I think so. And I forget who we spoke to. It's been within the last couple of weeks.
Was it Ben McKee?
It could have been Ben McKee. Maybe not going to get a Dalton Connect type situation, but the framework for Tennessee was already kind of there to have a pretty good team. So you mix in a couple of key transfers and maybe you don't have the sizzle that you had with Dalton Connect last year. Maybe, Tennessee fans kind of grown a little bit. They maybe get back to a little more quote unquote boring basketball, but you might end up with a better overall team heading into next year. It would be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Absolutely. It's wild. I'm looking at a release from the UT Athletic Media Relations Department. With the signing of Lanier, all 3 2020 Division IIA Mr. Basketball finalists were UT Vols at one time or another. Kennedy
Wow.
Chandler, who I believe won it, and BJ Edwards out of Knoxville, and now Lanier. So they got the market cornered on D2A Mr. Basketballs from 2020. Averaged almost 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists as a senior at Ensworth. He is now the 5th guy coming out of the portal. I'm sorry, the 4th guy coming out of the portal to UT, joining Darlingstone Dubar from Hofstra, Igor Milicic from Charlotte, and Felix Okpara from Ohio State. And they've also got a high school guard, Bishop Boswell, coming in. So good times for Rick Barnes and the Vols. Should be interesting.
Yeah, they're gonna be in pretty good shape, I think.
I think you're right. Wade, you predicted a sweep in the West yesterday.
No such luck last night. It took them
Anthony
4
Edwards
games.
heard you. Yes.
Yeah, it took them a while, but Edwards and the Wolves got a little pride back. I don't think it's unfortunately for them going to be enough to do something that no team has ever done before. Coming back from that 3-0 deficit. I'll tell you what, really, I had the game on, but I had it on the second TV. I had hockey on mainly on the big screen for the most part last night, and just glancing through the box score, Kyrie was not really involved as much as probably as you would think or you would like. And obviously Minnesota played well enough to win and not taking anything away from them. But the fact that really nobody outside of Luka kind of stepped up and had a quote unquote big game at the end of the day, I mean, Luka is as good as anybody's left in the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination, but you got to have a little help. And that's the crazy stat that was coming into last night. Kyrie lost his first ever potential closeout game. He had lost in kind of a funny stat there in that sense. He had lost some elimination games, but he had never lost a game where he had a chance to close out the other team. So he fell to 14-1 in that chance to send the Wolves down to Cancun last night. 16 points. He was just 1 of 6 from downtown. I still think Dallas is going to be in pretty good shape. I would not be surprised if Dallas closes this out. But Minnesota's squirrely enough. I can see them, with a little extra get back, playing back at home tomorrow night. If nothing else, the home fans are going to try and send them out, win or lose in style tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Speaking of the NBA, Bronny James is staying in the draft. Yeah. He's projected as a 2nd-round pick. And I mean, is this just as simple as, and we've discussed it before, is this just as simple as someone taking him in hopes of maybe getting dad as well? Or he doesn't stand on his own, does he?
No, I don't think so. And I had seen just enough of a sniff from the NBA Combine a couple weeks ago. The initial reports kind of were saying, he's not bad. But then kind of the last week, I've really kind of just settled back into seeing that I just don't know that anybody is really anticipating much out of this guy as far as, a super prolonged NBA career. I could be totally wrong. Could end up being a pretty good player. We've seen guys obviously come in, whether it's an older brother, younger brother situation or a father situation. You may not ever live up, and there's no chance, obviously, he's going to live up to dad's reputation, but, come in, be a journeyman and, cash some good checks. He's already pretty much set for life, you would assume. And, Mo, a couple weeks ago, we had Teresa Walker on the show, and we talked about how the NBA draft is now 2 nights. And our good buddy and Pulaski Citizen Live colleague, Cody Derryberry, he pointed out magnificently They didn't move this 2 nights just so Adam Silver can dap up Bronny James with people actually watching night 2, right? They didn't do that on purpose, right?
No, never.
The
NBA would never do a thing like that. No.
Something borderline rigged would never occur in that league.
In the National Basketball Association, nothing like that would ever take place.
James is currently not even listed in the latest version of NBA Draft.net's 2024 mock draft. So unless, and the Lakers pick at 56, which is right near the end of the second round. I mean, that's got to be your pick, I would assume. If
he's still there.
I mean, yeah, if he's going to get picked at all is where I was going. But yeah.
So. Excuse me. You said you were watching hockey last night. That was Rangers Panthers, right?
Rangers Panthers. That's been a barn burner of a series, and it goes to overtime yet again. And the Panthers looked like they had squandered it for a little bit. Rangers scored first, and then the Panthers came back with 2 in the second. Rangers tied it up, forced overtime, and then the Panthers kind of shut it down in overtime pretty quick. The Preds throw the catfish on the ice. The Red Wings, started it with the octopus way back in the day. And the Panthers throw rats on the ice, plastic rats at least.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any real ones, but they throw the rats out on the ice. According to a legend, a fan threw a rodent on the ice as a joke during a roadkill years and years ago, and it's kind of just picked up steam. So if you look out and you're watching TV, Mo, and you see just all kinds of plastic rats on the ice, don't freak out. That just means the Panthers have won another game, and they picked up a big one last night.
Well, at least they're plastic, like you said, because that would.
I hope they're plastic. Yeah.
Yeah. There's all sorts of concerns if they're not plastic. So with that win last night, that series is even at 2 apiece, going back to MSG tomorrow for Game 5.
Yep.
Dallas
going back
go ahead.
I was just getting ready to say it's been an electric series, and we get the Oilers Stars tonight. That's been fun. We talked about it on the show yesterday. The Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals in the NHL have been fantastic. NBA has been some oddly competitive games, but have ended in sweeps and maybe even a gentleman's sweep. But the NHL has been delivering thus far.
Absolutely. Dallas leads that series with Edmonton 2-1 coming into tonight's game at the Oilers, like you said. So at least the ice has been competitive, if the hardwood has not. Scrolling through Twitter, as we are wont to do, news of local interest. CBSSports.com reporting former Blackman quarterback, former UT receiver Jawan Jennings has re-signed with the 49ers on a 2-year deal. No one happier than friend of the show, Benny Jennings, with that, I'm sure. Jawan Jennings was set to be the MVP of this past Super Bowl, becoming just the second guy to catch a touchdown pass and throw a touchdown pass in the same Super Bowl before Kansas City pulled that thing off. But 2-year deal, apparently, after 19 catches for 265 yards and a touchdown last year.
I was just getting ready to say, I was just getting ready to say, wonder what that means for him going into this year, because after a performance like that on the biggest of stages, maybe an increased role for Jawan. And you're right, Benny is he's going to be racking up still a lot of frequent flyer miles, but I'm sure he's also happy to see Jawan ink a big deal as well.
Yeah, he'll be racking up a lot of frequent flyer miles, but I think they can afford it. So I think he'll be all right. Congrats to them, seriously. And for a guy who really had to kind of fight his way into the league and onto a roster at that kind of thing, it's nice to see him have the success that he has had, and hopefully he can continue to do so. So Wade, earlier in the show, I guess in the rundown specifically, we mentioned that Connecticut beat down a Phoenix in WNBA action 70-47. That 47 points for the Mercury was the lowest single game output by a team in almost 10 years. And I'm sorry, it was the fewest they scored since 2012 when they had 47 against the San Antonio Stars, now the Las Vegas Aces. And it was largely behind the arc that they were doomed. 1 of 27 from 3. That'll typically get you beat.
And that reminds me, you mentioned Twitter. I saw the tweet last night. Washington Jr. for the Mavericks had another poor shooting performance, and inside the NBA delivers yet again because Chuck doesn't even miss a beat. We talked about him on the show yesterday. He said, "Ooh, that's pretty bad." He said, "That's almost Karl Anthony Towns bad because he's also obviously been shooting poorly." And I'm thinking those two bricklayers still couldn't combine for enough bricks from what we saw last night. 1 for 27 is
1
like
for 27.
That's like me and Chris Yao out there in the gym tossing them up, my friend.
I would hope y'all could combine to hit more than 1 of 27.
Well, he would hit the 1. He would hit the 1. I would be responsible for quite a few of the 26 misses there, but yeah.
I'm not going out there with you, not with my shoulder. Phoenix is the first team to make 1 or fewer threes in a game since the Sparks in 22. And their one make was the fewest by a team with at least 20 attempts, let alone 25 or 27. So tough night for the Mercury, and they get as their reward to face the Liberty tonight. So a little back-to-back action for Phoenix. We will have those results for you in tomorrow's rundown.
Couple quick ones, Mo. 2 rookies, both in losses, unfortunately, last night. But Caitlin Clark, career high 30 points, and then Angel Reese, first double-double of her pro career last night. She had 11 points and 12 rebounds. Sky fell to the storm, as we mentioned, and the Sparks. Cameron Brink's had a weird start to her career. She's been largely a defensive presence. She only had 3 points last night offensively, but kind of a rookie update there from the WNBA.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that's not Caitlin's first 30-point game, and I'm sure that's not Angel's first last 30-point game or double-double. Absolutely. So
June, hey, mark your calendars, though. As soon as I say that, I've lost the date. I thought it was June the 1st, so I've completely
Indiana and Chicago?
Yeah, that's the point I'm getting to. Is Indiana and Chicago are getting ready to play soon. I thought it was June the 1st. Yes, it is. All right, it's 11 a.m. Saturday, June the 1st. Sky Fever. 2 really bad teams at the moment, but it'll be must-see TV, if that makes sense.
You know, something that I have learned in my almost 40 years of sports journalism, 2 bad teams can play, I won't necessarily say a good game, but certainly a competitive game. So, again, like you said, it'll be must-see TV at 11. So
it's like nothing in soccer. Sometimes it's a good game, and you just can't take your eyes off of it, even though it may not be the most entertaining at times.
Exactly. I'll tell you what is entertaining, or who is entertaining. Heather Williams. She's going to join us to talk a little NASCAR when we come back on the other side of this break to Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. So join us in the Lee Company studios here after this.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway.
That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news we can find from across the globe. Right now, we will visit with Heather Williams of WCYB TV up in Johnson City, our NASCAR expert, as we discuss a little racing, both what has happened and what will happen. Heather, good afternoon.
Yeah, guys, who needs weird and wacky when we've had what's going on in NASCAR the last 2 weeks? It's been non-stop craziness for sure.
Heather, I guess it's always a little disappointing when you don't get to finish a race.
It's a lot disappointing, and I think what made this tough for the drivers. I got a chance to talk to Alex Bowman this afternoon, and I don't think a lot of the drivers realized how bad the rain was going to be. I don't think that they thought that they weren't going to get to finish it. I think they thought there was going to be some rain, a little delay. They'd try the track, they'd get back out on the track and finish the race. And so for the race to be completely called, I think was what shocked a lot of people and made it tough, because I mean they deal with rain delays and cancellations and all the time. But generally when you're racing to halfway and you don't think you're going to get a window to finish it, most people know that and understand that. Just for instance, I don't think that Kyle Larson would be running in there at the last minute with his helmet and, running to switch out and jump into the car from Indy if they really didn't think they were going to get this race restarted. So I think that was kind of the disappointing thing for a lot of fans and a lot of drivers, is that they had no idea that the rain was going to be as bad as it was and that they were not going to get this race restarted on Sunday.
Christopher Bell gets the win after 249 of 400 laps at Charlotte in the Coca-Cola 600, 400? 600, my bad.
It's supposed to be 600, but it was about 340.
by title, yeah.
Yeah.
His second win of the season. But like you
It is
said,
his second win of the season.
Yeah, I don't know, what the expectations were for him for the race, and I don't know how much the fact that it wasn't actually 400 laps kind of impact that. I mean, you mentioned that the drivers did not see this coming. I would imagine you race it a little differently when you think you've got 400 laps versus when you've got barely half of that, I guess.
Sure. And I mean, Christopher was running really well this weekend, and Joe Gibbs Racing on the 1.5 mile tracks are always a threat to win, all 4 of their drivers. But there is a different approach. You take, for instance, people want to criticize Bubba's rain short one, but I'll use this as an example. Everybody knew they were racing to the rain at that point. And so even though they weren't anywhere near the finish of that race, people were racing like it was the end of the race. On Sunday, people were not racing like this was the end of the race. People were ending, so, you're not worried about dicing through traffic. You're not taking as many risks. You're not worried about pit strategy. Everybody pitted when they had a chance to pit previous to that, and nobody stayed out. Generally, Justin Haley won his one and only race in the Cup Series because they had rain coming and he stayed out when everybody else pitted, and then they didn't get back going, and he was the winner. So, none of that happened in this race. So I think it does kind of, I don't want to say cloud it, because rainouts happen, and then that's part of the sport. But I do think it definitely leaves a lot of people disappointed, because you could see one of the things about a 400 lap race, about 600 miles at Charlotte, is NASCAR's endurance race. And you could see comers and goers. There were people that were very strong when it was sunlight out, but as the night was coming, they were starting to fall back. And you could see other people start to make their way to the front. Alex Bowman was making his way to the front. The 5 car that Kyle Larson was going to take over was making its way to the front. Brad Keselowski was coming. Even if this caution comes out like 3 laps later, Keselowski might have been in the lead. So I think that's a disappointing thing, because this race is so much about strategy and balancing your car and being able to transition from day to night, and we didn't really get any of that in this race.
Keselowski finishes second, followed by William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin, rounding out your top 5 at the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend. Heather, you mentioned Kyle Larson coming back from Indy. Is that double does it still hold the fascination that it did? Or has it been done so many times now that it's not a big deal? Mark, did we lose
really,
Heather?
did you have a guy or to race the top of both of those races like you did with Larson? I mean, Larson was a legitimate threat to win both races. He had a good enough car, and he was a good enough driver to do that. So I think people were as fascinated by this double as they have been in a long time. And I think that's part of the disappointment of a lot of fans too, is that they didn't get to see Larson do that.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, obviously. And Heather, that was kind of the weird thing. I didn't get to watch any really of the NASCAR, but I did catch the last 30 or so laps of Indy. And the craziest part for me was that it was the same storm, and just everything that kind of was just stacked against Kyle just kind of kept compounding on top of it. And I guess I'm really curious. You've covered a lot of NASCAR. How many checks and balances, how many rungs up the ladder do you have to go before you really throw in the towel on a race like this? Because we've seen it over the years. They try everything known to man, it seems like, to get these races in. Are we talking about an absolute last resort type situation, or how did that process kind of unfold in your mind?
Are you talking about as far as the Coke 600 goes?
As far as throwing in the towel at the end of the NASCAR race, yes.
Well, I think that the biggest challenge for them this time, they will try everything, but I think the biggest challenge, from what I understand, from what Elton Sawyer said when he was on Sirius XM satellite radio, and what some of the other journalists that were at the track actually said, was they had the track dryers out there and they were drying the track, but almost as quickly as they were getting it dry, weepers were coming up and more condensation was getting on the track because it was so humid. And so it was going to be almost 1 o'clock, they felt like, until the track was dry. And then that would have the time between 3 and 4 a.m. And they just didn't feel like that was appropriate or practical since they'd already reached halfway. And I think why people were surprised was because there was no rain coming behind, and because it usually only takes, a couple of hours to dry the track. Most people thought that they would get it dry, but they were running into a real challenge with actually getting it completely dry. And because there was no rain, fans were seeing what they thought was a dry track. They couldn't really see the weeds. They couldn't really just where it comes up. This condensation from humidity. And so we're starting to get out the people most
We are having some issues with Heather's audio. I think what we probably need to do, Mark, is disconnect Heather and try to get her to call back in if she can, and try to clear that up. So let's do that real quick. Wade, when we get her back, NASCAR Cup Series goes on to Chicago this weekend, and that's kind of getting back into Heather's wheelhouse back out there in the Midwest. I'd love to get her thoughts on what the expectations are when we get out there. So hopefully we can get her back and kind of discuss that.
Be nice to certainly nice to get her thoughts on that. And I certainly want to ask her too, since we didn't get to catch up last week. The fight kind of heard around the world.
Yes.
With our Linville boy Justin White still in the fold. I want to ask her if she's had a chance to kind of unpack that situation, and then just when you think the local connection is there, then we see Newgarden go back to back at Indy this past weekend. So things have kind of been hovering in and around the Nashville area, but you're right. It was just unfortunate because the end of the Indy 500 ended up being just an insane race. And we just come off the heels of that photo finish in NASCAR a couple of weeks ago. I think everybody was excited to see if that would carry over to the final stretch of the Coca-Cola 600. And that's why I was real curious, because it seems like they try. It to me almost seems kind of like a checklist on an airplane that a pilot would go through. Seems like there's about 100 different checks and balances to try and get that race in at all costs.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the last thing you want is to call it off like that. So that's why I was kind of curious just how far down the rabbit hole they go before you finally do throw in the towel, so to speak.
Yeah, that's tough. I would think anytime you do have to come to that decision, and I would imagine they go through a lot of deliberation and that kind of thing before they get to that point. You mentioned Indy and Newgarden, and what was most ironic to me was basically he won that race on the same move that he won it on last year.
I mean, just unreal, nerves of steel, you could say another phrase if you'd like, but making a crazy pass right there at the end. And Pato O'Ward gave one of the more emotional and raw post-race interviews I've seen in a long time, as I think Heather might be back with us. But yeah, just a crazy finish there. And we certainly were hoping, obviously, for a crazy finish at the Coca-Cola 600 as well.
Absolutely. Heather, how much attention, thanks for coming back with us. How much attention were you paying to Indy?
Oh, a lot. I'm a huge Indy racing fan. In fact, my first love is Indy cars and not NASCAR when it comes to racing. By the way, I apologize. I am in the middle of nowhere, Southwest Virginia, going to the playoff game. So I think we're in a better cell situation now.
Enough said. Enough said.
I got up on Saturday or on Sunday morning and watched is relative term Monaco, the F1 race, and then watched the IndyCar race, and then watched the NASCAR race. So it's racing Christmas for me with those three big races. And
Heather, it was crazy too, because you go from Monaco, which is the most boring race on the planet usually, but it is, breathtaking with the scenery. Indy delivers, and then we were set up for kind of a potentially another main event with NASCAR before the finish didn't come to fruition there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, IndyCar was, and for the past 2 years, has been the best race of the three, even though IndyCar racing is the least popular of the three, which blows my mind. But plus, I got a soft spot for Joseph Newgarden. Also, being a Tennessee boy helps.
Exactly.
But before he moved to Tennessee, when I was living in Wichita, I actually when I became a fan of his, because he was driving for Wink Hartman, who is from Wichita. So I actually adopted him as my guy that I kind of followed. I was a Dan Weldon fan forever, and when Dan tragically lost his life, I adopted Joseph as my guy. So I really enjoyed that, and the race turned out the way I was hoping it would, with Newgarden in victory lane, and I'm sure a lot of happy people, specifically in Middle Tennessee as well.
Absolutely. Heather, NASCAR Cup moves on to Chicago this weekend.
We are in St. Louis this weekend.
Oh, St. Louis this weekend. Excuse me. My fault. I knew it was somewhere in the Midwest. But what are your thoughts coming off of Charlotte for this weekend?
Well, it's a little bit of a track for the Cup Series, so still a lot of unknowns. Drivers are still trying to get their arms around it. It's only the third time they've raced there, because they only race there once a year. Great racing market, lots of great race fans in the Midwest. I think racing in the Midwest is a little bit underrated on the national scene, but rabid race fans there. Because it's still kind of an unknown, so drivers don't really know what to expect. This weekend, I would expect that the normal players would be good. Hendrick, Gibbs, they always are. But I think the biggest story to watch this week going into Gateway is not really on the track, but it's the news off the track that kind of affects one of the local drivers, Josh Berry. The announcement that Stewart-Haas Racing is closing shop at the end of the year. We've already started the fire sale of the charters from another Tennessee businessman, Bob Jenkins of Morristown, has bought a charter, assumingly from Stewart-Haas. So a lot of the focus is going to be on what happens to those charters, what happens to those drivers, crew chiefs, crew members, etc. Because all of a sudden you have 4 drivers and teams that are out of work at the end of the year.
That's never good. Something to keep an eye on. And before,
right, but hello, you still have me?
Hey, we've got you for now. We've got you for now. And before we lose you again, Wade wanted to ask you, because we didn't get to visit with you last week, your thoughts on the fight?
Come on, cell service.
Right. Go ahead, Wade.
Heather, you still there?
Nope.
Still here, you got me?
We do now, yes.
Nope.
Hey, Heather, if you can hear us, we wanted to ask you, give us your blow-by-blow of the fight from a couple weeks ago.
So I was there. I'm trying to find a place to pull off, but I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. I was there at North Wilkesboro. I was not at the fight. One of our photographers was, but he got some really great video. If you want to go to WCYB's YouTube page and check it out, it's some really good video. Ricky said he was going to fight. He told us all in the media center he was going to do it. I believed him. That apparently about 20 other media members did too, because they followed Kyle Bush, like Pied Piper, into the pits to be there to witness it. Ricky had a reason to be mad. He was wrecked on purpose. I think the punishment was a little excessive. $75,000 is a lot of money. Especially since Kyle got nothing and Kyle started it. You know, you're kind of like, you know, they always say the guy that gets the second blow in is the one that gets caught. Kind of one of those kinds of things. So that's my biggest thing. I mean, I'm fine with them punishing him. I just think that Kyle deserved to get punished too, since he literally wrecked Ricky on purpose and ruined his night. I'm fine with the fighting too. I think it puts all eyeballs on the sport. I found it kind of humorous, kind of WWE-ish a little bit, but you know, it had the excitement to the weekend. The racing wasn't that great, so what else were we going to talk about after Wilkesboro if there wasn't a fight?
It makes total sense. I mean, an all-star race ends in a brawl. That kind of tells you need to know all you need to know there. Heather, I got to ask you too. A friend of ours is Justin White, who was heavily involved in that melee there. He's the big gentleman, the big rascal that was moving folks out of the way. So if you need a little bit of a enforcer or bodyguard, I know Kyle's got him under contract, but he might be available for you as well in the event you need some protection coming up soon.
I mean, he was the breakout star of that fight, wasn't he? I mean, he was just throwing guys off the hauler like a rag doll. I mean, it was really entertaining. I enjoyed that, but everybody knows who he is now. So
and the funniest thing is he is the nicest, softest soul you'll ever meet until you make him angry, and then you see what happens there.
So is he from Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, he's from right down the road in Linville, and we don't have enough time to tell you a story about me and him going to a bar in Nashville on New Year's Eve, but he's a nice. He's a nice.
Been told.
The cliff notes are: I thought I had a personal bodyguard who could move everybody out of the way, and I could get to the bar and basically have free reign all night. But instead, he's tapping everybody on the shoulder. Hey, excuse me, would you mind moving out of the way? So I thought I had a fullback for the night, and it turns out I really had a giant teddy bear with me. So my plan went kaput there. But he's a great dude, and he's so mild-mannered, and you're right, he's kind of the breakout star of that whole fight now.
Yeah. Well, apparently what you needed then was Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s dad in front of the bar, and then maybe he would have moved some folks.
He was up in the mix too. That was a crazy situation, and you're right. They were following him like the Pied Piper. I mean, the media crews were shooting that like it was basically a hype package for an upcoming boxing or WWE. I mean, you knew something was going down just on the way that they were filming the melee there.
Well,
I believe we may have lost Heather for the last time, unfortunately. I hate that y'all didn't get to wrap that up, but we appreciate Heather coming on with us every Wednesday to talk NASCAR here on Main Street Sports Today, and look forward to visiting with her next Wednesday after they run at St. Louis this weekend. So let's go ahead and take a break. When we return to the Lee Company studios, it'll be the final segment of the day. That's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. So stay tuned after this.
Are you the biggest race fan? Main Street Media and Rackley Roofing are teaming up to send a family of 4 to the Rackley Roofing 200 truck race at the National Super Speedway on June 28th. All you have to do is head to your favorite Main Street Media site and click on the Rackley banner to win.
I'm Maurice Patton, and on Main Street Sports Today, we bring you the voices of your favorite teams from preps to pros. Otherwise known as the VOT, Mike Keith.
The bottom line is we can teach Will Levis woke.
I just don't know who's going to work with you on your base stealing now that EY's gone.
Well, that has nowhere to go but up. And I was just like, oh, guys, not again. Can we just bury that, burn that footage, and not bring it back?
No. No.
Thank you. We'll keep it going past the All-Star break, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. There's always a good story to tell.
Can you guess where I am today, Mo? Where am I?
It's not Reese Smith Field, is it?
Yeah.
When you're walking the dog, you keep the bags that you need for the dog in the bag, and you don't even have to wear it. You can just hold it, which is what I do when I walk the dog. So
I think the fanny pack probably needed a little rebranding.
It did. It really did.
On your show logo, we've got to get a puck in there. There's a basketball. There's a football. There's a baseball. Maybe if not a puck, how about Mo brandishes a hockey stick?
Tune in daily at 2 p.m. on Main Street Media TV.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective residences. And as it's titled, it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday, and it's time for us to give you some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. We're going to start in Alaska, a little Charles Pulliam tribute here. In a state where there are basically one moose for every 4 people, they're bound to cross paths sometimes. And unfortunately, for a nature photographer up there not too long ago, he was trying to take pictures of a couple of moose calves, newborn moose calves. Mama didn't appreciate it. Dale Chorman of Homer, Alaska, was killed trying to take a picture of these 2 newborn calves. And I guess in Alaska, as much wilderness as there is, this kind of thing is a little bit more common than you might think. But his family is saying that they would not want anything to be done to, the mama moose or the babies. Said that he knew the risk of taking photos in the wild and died doing what he loved. Apparently, he and a friend were trying to find the moose and the calves to take pictures of them when she came charging out. I just cannot imagine, but I can't imagine being in Alaska either. This happened on Chorman's property just east of Homer. And this was not a hapless fool stumbling into the danger. This was a person who went out looking for a great photo, knowing the risks, and got caught in a dangerous moment, said Chorman's son. So, the ungulate mother need not die. She was just protecting her offspring. So,
don't mess with them, man.
Don't mess with mama.
Nope.
Especially when mama is a moose. I mean, don't mess with mama's kids, I guess. I would imagine they are a little bit more protective of their offspring than, just in normal encounters. So that's different. It says in this article, in 1995, a moose stomped a 71-year-old man to death when he was trying to enter a building on the campus of Alaska Anchorage. Witnesses said students had been throwing snowballs and harassing the moose and its calf for hours, and the animals were agitated when the man tried to walk past them. So leave the mooses alone. Moose, leave them alone.
Just leave them alone, man. Let them be. Actually, one of my good friends, his family or his parents are in Alaska right now. They're on an Alaskan cruise, so you'd have to have a really strong arm to throw a snowball to hit one of them bad boys, I think. But yeah, leave them alone, man. Come on.
The largest of the deer family, a small adult female moose, can weigh up to 800 pounds, while a large adult male can weigh twice that.
Shoo. Yeah, don't.
I mean, if you have to be told to leave those beings alone, I don't know what I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, and tragedy, obviously, but and
No
then that
doubt.
second part of the story, that was definitely don't be throwing snow. That's the last thing I'm doing is provoking.
No, I'm not trying to make a moose mad. I
Mm-mm.
I can't imagine many things worse than a mad moose.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, that's not
It's
looking
kinda up
good.
there. No,
Mm-mm.
no.
Hey, on the other end of the animal spectrum, how about, I know you saw a million of them last week in Murfreesboro, Mo, and Riverdale, by the way. Riverdale was advertising baskets from the concession stand of cicada fries. I can't confirm if you actually were able to order those, but it was late. Everybody was looking for a little laugh, so you could apparently order them. But there apparently has been, we're not the only state plagued by these things, but there has been a spotting of a blue-eyed cicada. This is up in near the Chicago area, and it's called the Magica cicada, and it was spotted. And I don't know if producer Mark can find this bad boy, but a blue-eyed cicada, really almost kind of a white or milky kind of color. They're already kind of freaky, especially with the red eyes. But then you see one with like these white or blue eyes. This thing is wild looking. So I guess it was, what did we say? There's potentially a trillion or trillions that are across the United States this summer. I guess it's not a shock that we would see one that looks a little different, but a blue-eyed cicada, keep your eyes peeled. Yeah, if you see that little daddy just rolling up on you, just be real careful because you don't know what he or she is up to.
Kyle, Texas tried to break a world record recently for the largest gathering of people with one name. They got 706 Kyles to show up at a local park here not too long ago. Kyle was miserably short of Ivan in Bosnia, which got 2,325 Ivans to show up in 2017.
Yeah, I feel like that's a subpar effort from Texas, right? Come on.
Particularly from Texas, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's not the first time the Kyles have come gunning for the Ivans. Last year, the official count at what has become known as the Gathering of the Kyles clocked in at 1,490. So, I guess Kyle said once was enough and just kind of threw in the towel on that one. It's a little disappointing.
Yeah, I got a couple buddies named
do
Kyle
better,
too.
Texas.
Yeah, I got a couple buddies named Kyle, and they didn't say a dang word about going to Texas. So I'm gonna ask them why weren't
There
they
you
pulling
go.
their pulling their weight? Another one from the Mother Nature realm. Producer Mark hopefully can pull this. Manhattan Hinge is upon us. This is one of the coolest things I'd love. I'm not going to go out of my way to see it, but I'd like to see it once. Our buddy Neil deGrasse Tyson coined this term in '97, and it's basically where the sun completely dissolves right there between a particular set of roadways in Manhattan. And the first one of the year, it happens a couple times a year. It happened last night at 8:13. Apparently it's going to happen tonight at 8:12, and then 2 more times in July. That is a breathtaking view of a city full of hustle and bustle, but then you get a little nature just at the end of the day for Manhattan Hinge.
And in a city that you don't necessarily expect nature to show up. So that is cool. That's a nice get there for Manhattan Hinge. Not to be confused with Stonehenge, I don't guess, huh?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Well, there's your Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. That's going to do it for the Main Street Sports Today, presented by Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Thank you all for joining us for this last 2 hours. Come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll be joined by Loretto coach Zach Curtis and friend of the show, Joe Sullivan. So come on back, 2 o'clock right here.